I'm located in Oklahoma City.
And where?
In Oklahoma City?
Oh, cool.
Well, thank you for coming on my show. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I've got all my hip prov t-shirt on and
hmm Well, I did some research about you, and like I said, you're
uh-oh.
and I mean producer and writer, but you did the Gilmore Girls, you did the Golden Girls.
All the girls.
A little brief history about you, because I did a little more deep history about you, is that
Uh,
you started acting when you're 7, and I could be wrong. You can correct me.
7.5, but
Um, your father was not so supportive, but your mother was. So
yes.
was your father not very supportive of you? And how was the conflict in your family finding out your mother was supporting you, but also your father was not?
Unfortunately, it's not a rare situation, especially back then when I was growing up, and it was, um, acting was not, especially growing up in the Midwest, it was not considered a very safe profession. Um, but I think my father understood my creativity, but he just didn't, maybe he was thinking he didn't want me to get hurt. It was a very tough career. But I was a very determined young boy, and I wanted to do acting, and I loved acting. And my mother knew that she wanted her kids to follow their passion. And I always respected and loved that she just would do anything to get us to achieve that goal. Um, but then I think the first time my father saw me be on stage and get a laugh, and then after everyone's coming up to me and saying how funny I was, I think he got it and appreciated that. But he was a very practical person. So when it came time to go to college, he was like, "You're going to University of Michigan, like I did, and my family did, and your aunts and uncles all went, and your brother went." And I'm like, "No, I want to go to New York." And he's like, "Well, I don't want to pay for that." So that was very disheartening. And my parents were divorced at that time. And my mother said to me, she called me into her bedroom and she said, "Look, if this is something you really want to do, we'll find the money, we'll make it work. But I want you to tell me that this is like, it's this or nothing." So I was like, "I'll be right back." And I walked down the hall to my bedroom. I sat on my bed, and it didn't take but a few seconds. And I was like, "No." I came marching back and I said, "Yes, I have to do this. I've been doing it since I was 7. There's no question about this." And she said, "No questions asked, didn't even miss a beat." She says, "We're going to get you the money. We'll figure it out." And NYU is very expensive, and we figured it out. And I did work study all through college, and we did it. And so I owe so much to my mother, and uh, that's why one of these plays is inspired by her story. And I'm hoping to, if knock on wood, where's there wood, that I'll be producing it and directing it in New York this year. I'm hoping. But it's been licensed by TRW Plays, and it's been performed in LA a few times with the great Mindy Sterling and Arnisha Walker, and we did it in North Carolina last November. But I'm ready to bring it to off Broadway into new world to hear it, and it's kind of in the vein of a Golden Girls episode. It's very funny, but it also has a lot of heart to it, and it's about a period. These two women. One worked for the other woman
hmm
as a black housekeeper, and um, they are getting older, and they don't want to, go to assisted living, and they want to figure out a
Right.
way to somehow protect each other, and it's their journey, and it's I found when we did it in North Carolina, we did a couple talkbacks, and the groups of female theater goers that are of that age, they were in tears. They were like, "Nobody's writing about us. We got to see us on stage."
hmm
And that's why I have to get this play out there. That's another reason why I'm working so hard getting my Silver Foxes uh, project off the ground. We tried to sell it as a TV series. No network wanted to buy it because it was older characters and it was gay characters. So then my friend Michael Urie from Ugly Betty was like, "Make it into a play." We made it into a play, and It was also licensed by TRW Plays, and it's going to be premiering the first 2 weeks of March, directed by Michael Urie in Dallas at
Yes.
Uptown Players. And I'm
Congratulations.
so excited about that. It's a real lesson that I've learned
Hmm.
through the school of hard knocks of in entertainment is there's so many people that shut doors in your faces and say no to you. What do? You got to get up and figure it out
Right.
and get back on there. And I did. I figured it out. I found a theater, and we got this great team together. And again, it's older gay people that society doesn't really want to hear from, and we are giving it a voice, and I'm very, very excited about that. And again, that has a very serious undertone. It came about from my writing partner James Berg and I saw this documentary called Gen Silent, and it
Hmm.
was about gays and lesbians going into assisted living and having to go back in the closet. Can you imagine your whole life you fight to get out, and then you
You know,
get
that'd be,
older?
it's so devastating.
Devastating. And there's so many stories now of lesbian couples that can't touch in assisted living because
Hmm.
it's frowned upon. And so that's the story of this, that one of their friends is in there, and the other friends find out about it, and they're like, "You can't live like that." And
Right.
um, how they figure out how to get him out of there, and figure out another living arrangement. I guess I'm just writing about living arrangements because I'm
Right.
thinking about it myself too. Like, do I want to
Yeah.
stay in LA the rest of my life? I just came back. I'm sorry, I have to
Right.
stop talking. I've had too much coffee, so I'll let you do
No,
the
no,
rest.
no, you're okay. You're okay. That's amazing. I love that you told the story about that.
Yeah, I
I'm a big
just got back from New
LGBT.
York and had just a wonderful experience directing Hipprov, hypnotism. Under the you get hypnotized and then you do improv, and it was really the biggest production I had ever gotten to direct with, in a big 300-seat theater off Broadway with a budget and set designers and sound people and lighting, and it was gorgeous. And I just had the time of my life. And I was just walking around these streets, remembering me as like a little scrawny NYU student, dreaming of
Right.
actually being paid to work in theater. And here I
So,
was doing that.
pardon me, are you originally from the East Coast? Am I correct?
Detroit area, a
Hmm.
suburb of Detroit, and then went to NYU, and then was there for a year or so after school. And then
Hmm.
I wanted to write for television so bad, and my writing partner Jim Berg and I were like, he didn't want to leave, but I said I had to leave, and so I set out, and he came 3 months later, and then about 5 months later, we were on staff for a TV show, which is very rare,
So
and we know
that is
that,
amazing.
like, to have it that quickly. But we worked
Right.
our tails off.
Hmm.
We couldn't afford to do anything, so all we did was go to free tapings of TV shows and just study everything and met
Right.
everybody and just kept writing script after script. We didn't stop. I mean, some people just, oh, here's one spec script and try to sell it. No, we just kept going and picked another show and did another show, and then one of the spec scripts just like exploded. It was somehow
Wow.
the, I guess the style of the show. It was for Cheers,
Right.
and it was just our style. It was just very uh, not joke heavy, but more
Hmm.
character comedy, and it was also a new show at the time, and so people hadn't really heard comedies like that. They were much more at that time more uh, pattern, like a rat-a-tat-tat
Right.
jokes, and this was real weird bunch of characters in one. It was an ensemble comedy, so it wasn't like
Right.
a family in the living
Hmm.
room, and um, it just was the right combination. And I loved that show so much. So then to
Amazing.
like end up having to write for Shelley
Hmm.
Long when the Brady Bunch is like, so all these things, you work long enough, you have all
Right.
these
Of
full
course,
circle moments.
I could be wrong, but you can
Yeah.
correct me. You worked with on the Brady Bunch, and
Yeah, we wrote both movies. We
you
were
know,
the
I've
last
seen.
writers.
I'm sorry. I've
No,
seen
you
Brady
go.
Bunch,
Yeah.
and it was amazing. And of course, I've seen the Gilmore Girls. I've seen the Golden Girls. I'm a young person, but I still watch it still this day, and it makes me laugh.
As you should.
The Golden Girls make me laugh, and it was just amazing how I don't know. It's just these ladies are just sitting there and they're just doing all these calling each other and they're like talking all this stuff. And it's so interesting because still this day, the Golden Girls are like, I don't know what number in the nationwide the United States, but very, very popular show. And
I've seen it go up and down, but during COVID on Hulu, it was like their number 2 show.
yes.
How many years has it been off the air? And it was their number 2 show that people
Yeah, and
watch.
you can still watch on cable, direct TV, Dish Network,
Oh, and then I
YouTube.
also see
You can
residuals. Yeah,
um
residuals would go down. And now
right.
because it's played so much, all of a sudden they're going back up. I'm like, what do they play like 5,000 times a day? And
Yeah.
so I
So
have
my
people
question
coming up
is,
to me like that have memorized the scripts. They
so
know the line.
you actually met Betty White.
Well, of course, I worked with her.
I know. I'm just saying. Of
Yeah,
course you
yeah.
know you have, but I was deeply saddened she passed away. But um, my question to you is, how was she in real life? And was she? I know she's always been funny, but how was she other than in person? What was her life like? And what was her routine? And what was her morning like? What was like behind?
Well, I didn't sleep with her, so I don't know her morning routine. I
I
was
know
not
that,
at
but
the house, but yeah, I know, I'm kidding.
I
I did see her in the morning when we got to work, and when we have run-throughs. She was very, very professional. Uh, she was early days of television. She was there. I mean, like they turned the TV on and there was Betty White. And so she's just been in our household forever. And then I grew up watching her as a kid with Mary Tyler Moore. And for me as like a budding writer, that show was
Right.
so smart. And the characters were so specific and strong and funny and heartfelt. I just loved it. So here I was, like getting to work with her. It was, all of the ladies, but yeah, she always had a lightness. She always was like keeping everyone laughing. And they've been doing the tapings of shows in between
Hmm.
takes. She always connected with the audience. She just was always making them laugh. And I think the other ladies, every actor has a different style. So some actors like to stay in character, but she was always in between takes, just like she could go like, hey, haha, da da da, make a joke, and then go, all right, and action, and be right there. So it was just a different style, and between all of them.
And what
Um,
was the in before I go in more deeper into Golden Girls, but what was the decision? Why was it an idea to make a TV show about, and I know you said briefly about these ladies, the Golden Girl ladies. What was the idea behind that?
well, that wasn't my idea. That was Susan Harris's idea.
Right, but
So I think um, it originated. I think Brandon Tartikoff at NBC. There was Miami Vice was on, and
mhm,
they were doing some networky promotional thing, and so they did like Miami Nice, and they had, I think it was Doris Roberts from Everybody Loves Raymond, two old ladies, you know, doing the Miami Vice thing, and it was just a promotional thing to promote their new season. And I think they came back and went, "Oh my God, there's something there," and they went to Paul Witt and Tony Thomas, and Paul Witt was married to Susan Harris, and said, we have this idea of like an ensemble show with older women. And Susan wrote a brilliant pilot. I mean, those characters are so strong. So when we got on the show, we just built off of what she had set
mhm,
up. And they all were so specific, and they were cast so beautifully. They were like, I always say, the best of the best.
right,
You don't get better than B. Arthur. You just don't. And
right.
Lou
And did
McClanahan,
you pardon me, did the staff think the Golden Girls would be very popular back then?
no, because you could not sell that show. You can't sell that show today because it was just not thought of back then. You had to be white and thin
Mhm.
and young and you know great figure and athletic, and that was it. It was beautiful people. It's very, very Aaron Spelling, you know uh specific type of person in a show. So to put four older women and they're talking about sex, and that was just unheard of. So no one
Right.
really thought it would be that big, but it was really fun then. To every Monday when we have the table reads, they would announce what the ratings were of the week before. So remember, it wasn't like we had computers even back then where we could go online and see what the ratings were. None of that.
Right.
They came to them. I don't know how. I don't know how they got them. I really don't. I don't know. Maybe it was like a phone call or something.
Right,
um,
right. And
um,
even today, for you, you're still surprised that the Golden Girls are still aired on TV, YouTube, Netflix. I mean, not Netflix, but on Hulu.
I'm not surprised. I've gotten over the surprise. I'm just so thrilled that I was lucky enough. And
Hmm.
I even back then, as we watched every week when they would say it's 30, it's number 20, it's 10, it's number one, it's number one, it's number one. And we're all like looking around the room going, do you believe this? We all knew that was very special. And
Hmm.
then when you saw the studio audiences at the beginning, they came to the show and they didn't know what it was, and then they would play like the pilot and they would watch the pilot and laugh, and then they saw the other episodes. Then audiences started coming to the tapings that already knew it because they watched it every Saturday. So the minute an actor would come out, they would be like applauding and screaming. And if you see a lot of the episodes, like as we started moving along, they could anticipate, like like if Betty White said something dumb, or like Blanche would say something, like Dirk's nearly
Hmm.
10 years younger than me or whatever. They cut to be Arthur. Everyone's already laughing. Like you already like, oh, what is she gonna say? She's gonna say something so funny. So the actors had to hold because they're laughing, and that's called a laugh spread. Every week it got bigger and bigger. So we had to cut the scripts because the laughs were so long. Like
Wow.
that's very unusual.
Right.
Um, in plays you have that happen. Luckily, I've had that happen in some of my plays, but not like that. That was just stupendous. It
Hmm.
was really fun to watch. And even at that time, and even though I was super young, something inside of me just says like, take it in, really
Hmm.
appreciate it. I knew I was so lucky. I was amongst my peers. They weren't working. They weren't writing then. So we had we were the first of our group to get these big like
Right.
Hollywood jobs. And I totally understood that and was very gracious and generous with my friends. And they were so supportive and they were very excited for me. And
Right.
I just soaked up every single moment. If I was
Yeah.
on stage, I would look at the audience and I would be, oh my God, like they're laughing. It's something that came out of my head. And then I
Hmm.
would look at those actors and I'm like, and it's B. Arthur and Betty White are saying my lines. Like, how did that happen? Um, so, I think that's really important. Even today, I just follow that philosophy of being in the present moment and just
Hmm.
taking it all in because these moments go by so quickly.
Right.
And the older you get, the faster it seems.
That's awesome. And the thing is, I'm jealous that you met Betty White. Just me. That's just saying. But
Okay.
the four ladies, did they ever thought the TV show would be number one rating?
Again, we all were in the same boat. We knew the writing was good. We knew the stories, what we were doing were interesting. Um, we knew we hadn't heard these voices really before. But this was like, no, it was their stories, their
Hmm.
perspective. And I know at first I heard, I didn't learn this till later, that B. Arthur was like, who the hell are these like young kids writing? Like, what do they know? And then she started reading the script and she goes, they know, they know, and we listened and that's what I was taught early on from my acting career. As an actor, you have to react
Right.
and
Mhm.
listen, always listen and
Right.
just watch people. And so
That's
from a
true.
very early age, I was out looking, watching, listening,
Hmm.
people's mannerisms, people's facial expressions,
Hmm.
how they walk, how they talk. I still do it. And sometimes my friends go, stop mimicking me. But I don't know. It's just, I want to, like, why do you say those words? And why do you say it in that order? And why do
Right.
you pause here? It's all very interesting to me. So
Right.
sometimes people are afraid to say things because, oh, it's going to end up in a script. And my mother was like that too. I think she would like, oh, you're going to put in a script. She liked it and she didn't like it. But I think secretly she really did like it.
That's good. Now, curious question.
Okay.
Do you hope in now or anytime in the future that they could do a remake of the Golden Girls? And if they do you think it could possibly survive like the original ones?
You know, what we call a lightning in a bottle. It was lightning in a bottle in that it's a very rare thing. So when you get a script as beautiful as Susan Harris's, you cast those actors, and then it's just the time of the world. Like you have
Hmm.
no way to change that. It's just the world is it's revolving.
Right.
People can scream all they want for it to go back to whatever. It's going forward. We're moving forward. Um, So to try to recapture that lightning in a bottle, I don't think you can. You can create something else. I think art can inspire other art. There's a lot of drag performers that are taking our actual scripts and doing the real scripts. There's
Right.
a puppet show that does new material, but it takes
Hmm.
those characters. I love that it can inspire other things. There's a lot of art now and t-shirts and merchandising. I just saw someone had a bag I saw online that said, "No, I will not have a nice day." I was like, I wrote that line. Send me that bag. Don't make me buy it. You know,
Right.
can you please do that? So, I mean, I don't make any money off the merchandising, but I love that even things from like the Brady Bunch, Sure Jan, has
Hmm.
inspired all this artwork. So
Right,
I
right.
love that people can take it and
That's
make it
true.
their own.
Hmm.
But to do a reboot, I mean, I think there's clever ways to do it. Like I've been talking to my writing partner about doing, um, like those movies like Girl Trip, like four girls get an Airbnb in Miami, not knowing it's that house.
Right.
And then they suddenly start becoming those characters. They can't help it. Like, I think that
Hmm.
would be funny. You get, I don't know, Tiffany Haddish, and I don't know, just a fun group of people.
Right, right. And of
So I think
course,
someone's stealing that idea now. But I think like that's a way to do Golden Girls without saying, maybe there's a movie. You get Cher to be Dorothy, something. But to do a half hour of it, I don't know.
right.
I just like let it be, let it
That'd
be.
be, that's true. That'd be, let the original
And
be.
just keep watching the originals. Like
That's
why
true.
some of these remakes. I mean, I love Ariana DeBose. Like seeing her do West Side Story was extraordinary. So I don't want to like miss out on that opportunity, But that was kind of reinterpreted,
Hmm.
I something just the whole beginning when they had the whole part about tearing down all the people's apartments to build Lincoln Center. Like that was like such a brilliant way to start the movie, which
Hmm.
wasn't in the original, which is a part of New York history. So I think if you can add something to it, but just to do, I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know.
I know, I totally understand. It was just a curious question.
No, but I know people want it so badly.
Right.
Um, and I understand that, but I think there's just do a fresh take on it and not just
Hmm.
repeat it.
Right. I know, it was just a
Unless they were
curious.
paying me to do it, and I was like, okay, I'll do it. No,
Well, it's just a curious question for me.
no, I get it all the time.
Some audience maybe will definitely watch this later, but they'll be like, "Oh, we want to know if you're gonna do a remake possibility," but never know.
And everybody said, "Oh, Silver Foxes is a reboot of Golden Girls," and it's not. I
No.
mean, first of all, it's not the same setup. And yes, it's an ensemble show and they're older characters, but that's it. I mean, there have been ensemble shows before Golden Girls and there'll be ensemble shows after. So it's not a
Right.
reboot. So everybody just
Hmm.
calm the butt down. Yeah.
Now, my last question about
Oh, I don't think it'll be your last question, but
well, it's not the last question about the
okay.
Golden Girls. It's about the Golden Girls. But we're gonna never
Okay.
go talk about other show. But the Golden Girls. Did Betty White still watch her show even after she was done, acting and she was doing other thing? Like, was she at home? I don't know if you weren't home,
I was not home.
but
I
did
know.
she talk? Did she talk about that she still watched?
I have I have
You
no
have no.
idea. I mean, I think most of us do not like watch things again.
Hmm.
It's just there was a moment in time. I mean, it would be kind of very Sunset Boulevard. You're just sitting at home watching these old shows with you in them, and Um, like occasionally, like when I go to the Fan Fest Society, which is a Gilmore Girls fans meet once a year. Like before that, sometimes I'll watch an old Gilmore episode just so I can, because everybody else has memorized every detail of it, and I'm like, wait, what happened? Oh, okay, I kind of remember that. For some reason, with Golden Girls, I remember things more because they were only half hours. With Gilmore, it was a lot. It was a lot of words
Right,
and a
right.
lot of coffee. Yeah, which I'll
And
keep
of
to.
course, you worked with Lauren Graham on Gilmore Girls.
Oh my God, the most beautiful woman in the world. I
And
was
I have my
obsessed
list
with
right
her.
here. You
Uh,
worked with Keiko, Adjina, and Alex Blind. I'm so bad name. Blendell.
Alexis Bledel. Yes.
Thank you, Alexis
Yeah.
Bledel. Bad names, forgive me, Alexis. But
Just get my name right. We're okay.
yeah, I got your name right.
That's all you need. Yeah.
But it was amazing that you worked with these ladies and the Gilmore Girls. And again,
That's why I'm writing a book now, which is
mhm,
coming out Indigo River Publishing. It's called The Girls from Golden to Gilmore. And it's about all the wonderful women I've worked with and Roseanne. And and it's a real tribute to, that these women made me the man who I am today. And I'm so honored that I got to write for such brilliant artists, and I hope to continue to do so.
well, that's amazing, And I still watch, like I said, I watched the Gilmore Girls, I watched the Golden Girls, I watched the Roseanne show. And
Yeah. I mean, I'm lucky all three of those were really strong on writing. Those were
yes,
writer shows. And if I know we finished with Golden Girls, but if you go back and watch interviews of those four ladies on talk shows at the time, or even in print, every single interview, they bring up the writers. You don't see that on other shows. They were so complimentary, and I just thank them for that. They really acknowledge, like sometimes, with Roseanne, she was always firing writers. Like, no, they're your backbone. And
that's true.
and Gilmore Girls with Amy Sherman Palladino. I mean, the writing was just so smart and fast, and that was whole different tone and really fun to work on.
That's awesome. And yeah, I did see the interviews with the ladies, and they were thanking the writers, and
And
it
I don't think anybody told them to do it. They just started it, and then it seemed like everywhere they went, they just and as a writer, because they get to go home and like swim in their pool, and we're sitting there, eating out of box lunches and dinners, and we're there till 3 in the morning. Um, to acknowledge that we see you're working really hard was really cool of them, I
right.
felt. And I think it just set a tone that just made us want to work harder for them. We just wanted to be the best. There was also so much pressure. And because it was our second job, but even the producers came into the room and it's like, no, like that joke is fine, but you got to be like everyone. And that's why that show is so funny, because every joke is like a home run.
Mhm.
And we felt that, and we felt we couldn't let those ladies down.
Right. It was true, amazing. And I've actually cried a little bit on the Golden Girls and the Gilmore Girls.
Good, good.
Uh,
Yes.
it's afraid to admit that as a man, but um,
No, we all have feelings. It doesn't matter who you
because
are.
I was sitting there and I was just sitting with my couple of friends and we were watching the Golden Girls, and all of a sudden they turned around and looked at me, and it was a sad scene, teary scene. They looked at me like, "Wow, you're crying." That's sorry, just hand me a tissue. I'm sorry. It's like they're like, "Do you need a hug?" I said, "No,
Oh, you could have
sad
taken a hug.
scene."
But that's what I love about life in the movies that I like too in theater. It's you laugh and cry. It's like real life. And
Right.
that to me is the most exciting thing, and I bring that into all my theater as well, is to have the heart and to be laughing your head off and crying laughing, and then crying because, oh my God, it really touched me. And
Right.
that's super cool to be able to elicit those feelings out of
Hmm.
people, just from words or staging. It still amazes me, like, what is laughter? Where does that come from? And where's
Right.
that sound? What is that sound? Like it's such a
Hmm.
crazy sound, but to be like in a live theater and to hear it just cascading,
Yes.
it's like, whoa, that
There
that's a
is
high for me.
one scene that got me in the Golden Girls.
It better be something I wrote.
No, it's okay. No, it was really touching because I don't remember what episode, but there was a scene. Miss Getty, her last name, she was
Estelle, yeah.
Getty was sitting down on the bench.
Oh, with the older guy
Yes, and he was normal,
and dealing with dementia.
and it was suddenly a dementia kicked in.
Yeah, right,
It
right.
gave me a teary face because
Yeah.
I met people like that in situation in real life that, older people that because I've been to nursing home and because I volunteered at nursing home when I was
Mm,
younger. And and I've seen that in real life. And then, you see it again and you see it 100% in real life. And you because I remember when I was volunteering in a nursing home, I was sitting down with this elderly gentleman and we were laughing and talking. And about 2 weeks later, I saw him, and we were sitting, and he didn't really recognize me. He didn't recognize his family. He was normal. He wasn't mad, and we were just. I just brought up some old conversation, and and the family was telling me, "I'm sorry, he has dementia," and I just was like, wow, and then when I saw it on the Golden Girls, it really hit me more. It was like, wow, and it's like, and then when it was just like it had me pause for a minute. It was like, wow, life is so precious because and that's one thing that taught me. It's like, you can meet someone in real life, but you don't know what's gonna happen the next day or 2 weeks later when you see them again. And it's like, wow. So it was just a touching scene for me. I always every time that comes on TV, because I know I've seen it so many times, but it brings back memory when I volunteered at nursing home. It's like, wow.
well, having dealt with my mother
Mhm.
who had dementia the last few years of her life, and I mean, luckily she knew who I was, but you know, so much of our lives are about memories, and we get together with friends, and we're like, "Oh, remember this?" and we laugh about that. If you take that away, what do you have?
Right.
And I learned a lot from my mother. Seeing her. Luckily, she moved near me, and I could see her at least once a week. Um, how do you have a relationship with someone that doesn't have all those memories? And it'd be so interesting having these really heavy, wonderful talks with her every week. What memories did she have? And it was like spinning a wheel. You didn't know.
Hmm.
Like it wasn't as clear cut. And I kept wanting in the beginning to figure it out. So does she only remember like in the past? And some people do, and they don't remember like current things. But it was
Right.
kind of all over the place. And so you just never knew until it was really learning to ride it, like what I do with hip prov. Yes, and you just have to go, yes, and they tell you that in dealing with
Mhm.
people with dementia is you don't correct them and say, which I
Right.
didn't know in the beginning. I was like, that didn't happen, or no, or like I get mad. Now I feel bad that I was mad in the beginning because I didn't know what it was. That you just have to go, okay, yes, and then not be afraid to ask questions and talk
That's
like
true.
what does she remember,
Right.
and memories have changed, like I
Hmm.
mean she was very bitter about my father and the divorce, and then later on she was something, just she let it go, and she was like, no, I got you out of it, so I was like, you're not mad? No, it's like that was just a part of her life. And so
Right.
who knows? Who knows? But like
In
I said,
uh,
enjoy every moment, every single moment.
right. And I totally agree. And again, I'm sorry about your mom having dementia from the bottom of my heart. And I just wish that we as society and public and the film industry, this is just me, that we talk more about dementia, and I
Well,
believe
that's why my play, yes, Virginia does.
yes, and
But I was initially embarrassed of it. I remember my mother would come to all my plays, and then a friend said, "Oh, your mother's like repeating herself." I was so embarrassed, and then I was like, why do I have to be embarrassed about that? That's where she is in her life. And thank God she's well enough that she could come and sit in the front row of my plays, and with a big smile on her face. And she was got to be so proud and excited and loved how everybody would come up to her and say, "Oh, you're Stan's mom." And that meant everything. So if she forgot it later on, she really was living in every single
Yes. And
moment.
you know, one thing I noticed about dementia people, and I could be wrong, you can correct me, is that they're living in their happy moment. They always bring back, they always, yeah, they always go in circles, talk about happy moments.
Hmm.
So they kind of talk to you like, oh yeah, I remember this time, and you have to think in your brains, oh yeah, I remember that, laughing together, and they keep talking about happy moments, and like it's like, wow, I remember this, I remember that, I remember this, and it's like that's for me, it's the sad part about dementia, but also it's kind of funny and happy that they always want to bring up the good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody. There's some people with
That's
dementia,
true.
they
There's
get
some.
very belligerent and very upset.
Mhm.
And I just, I kept thinking, oh, I hope my mother doesn't go too much into that. There were certain moments where she was, but she ended up, like I would say, like, do you have any regrets? And she'd be like, no. And I'm like, isn't that great? Like that you've lived this
Right.
long and you don't have regrets. Um, so I think it was a privilege to be able to spend all that time with her. She
Amazing.
passed away a year ago, and it's still dealing with grief has been just a lot. And
You know, and I'm so
every day,
sorry.
yeah,
Oh,
thank you.
so, pardon. I'm so sorry about your mother's loss, you know, and
Yeah.
the mother connection, mother and son, or mother and daughter. You know, we have that connection type connection. And it gets you more when you see your loved ones get dementia, you know, and it just hits you, you know.
What it was like with people's reaction to Betty White. Like we knew Betty White wasn't not going to live forever. Okay,
Right.
what were we thinking? She was just always going to be there and be funny. And it was the same thing with my mother. I just, for some reason, I saw her declining, but I just thought she was been such a rock. She was literally there the day that I came out and saw light and breathed air. And so to now have a life where she's not there, and yes, I know I feel her in so many ways and see her in the moon and lots of stuff like that. But there's you can't you're just not seeing the face, the
Right.
twinkle in her eyes when I would walk into a room like that, you know, is forever gone. And that's still processing, even though it's been over a year.
You know, that's true. Testimonial story from you. I appreciate that. Amazing, you know. And then the Gilmore Girls was amazing as well. And you know, Roseanne. Now Gilmore Girls, now I could be wrong. Was it filmed in California or was it filmed somewhere else?
Now it was filmed in California, but it was set in Connecticut.
There we
Um,
go.
there you go. So Amy and her husband Dan, I guess, were traveling around Connecticut area and came to this little town. So it's been interesting for the fan festivals. We've gone back to those towns where she drove through, like Washington Depot and Kent, Connecticut. It was beautiful. This year, at the end of September, we're going up to Gunquit, Maine for the first time. And I'm very excited. I've never been there. And um, we met just incredible people. The fans come from all over, a lot of mothers and daughters, and we become this little family, this little band. And these people that come there, like they're part of my life. They have followed me to the Golden Girls Convention in Chicago in
Hmm.
April. They came to see Hip Prov in New York a couple weeks ago from all over. I mean, who does that? That is just,
Right.
we have a really sweet, lovely community. And without these shows, I never would have met any of these wonderful people. They just, our lives would not have intersected. And I feel so lucky that I know them.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. You know, of course, I see your Instagram and all the pictures you've been through, all the places you've been to. Amazing. You know,
Well, I feel like something happened after my mom passed. It's almost like she's like my agent in the sky. Something happened. She's up there working her butt off because like all these things started coming into my life. And again, it came with a time when COVID eased up a little bit and we could travel again. But I'm just having these major life experiences that I really do feel like she's somehow orchestrating that. It's
you
just
never
too
know, you
weird.
know.
I don't know. She can have the 10%, but I'm just like, wow, I'm having these things just and meeting all different kinds of people. I was just in Alabama doing my suicide note play right before I go, and to be in that little small town in Decatur, Alabama, and having this marvelous, wonderful intense experience with these actors, and I'm acting on stage with them. And now I'm about to go do this play with some cast members from Gilmore Girls and Virginia Madsen from the movie Sideways, an Oscar
Wow.
nominee. Yes, I have to act on stage with her, and we're doing a whole six city tour. So we're starting in Maine, October 2nd, and we're going to Woodstock, New York, Manchester, New Hampshire, um, um, Wilmington, Delaware, Baltimore, Maryland, Washington, D.C. Um, and so you can find it on my websites or Instagram, or go to seedlingevents.com. And if you know anybody that you think could benefit from talking about suicide, which again, it's that, like you were talking about dementia, there's such shame around it. And that's why I created this play after a very close friend of mine died by suicide 10 years ago. And I've been doing it all over the country with high school kids, and I did a virtual production with Vanessa Williams, and
Wow.
that wasn't scary at all. Yeah, she's been wonderful to
That's
work
good.
with, and
Well, you mentioned your friend. I've lost three friends from suicide. Um, and it's affected.
sorry. Yeah.
And I'm opened up. I am not afraid to mention this. I suffer depression, and I'm a suicide prevention guy. I'm a hardcore advocate for mental illness, and I'm a big hardcore LGBTQ supporter, equal rights person. But mental illness for me as well is very important for me. I lost three friends from suicide, so very for me to talk about suicide prevention is very important because I want to let everybody know that you're loved, you're cared. There are people out there that want you. If anybody who are suffering can call your friends, call your family,
Well, now they can call 988.
yeah, 988. And and for me and anybody that if you it's okay, we're busy in life. I admit that I am, but it's okay for us to like, oh, let me text or let me call this person because let me see how they're doing. Let's have lunch or have coffee. And that's one thing I love what I'm doing. But again, also there's that 988. So I love what you're doing about the suicide prevention. Thank you. Because
It's hard to do. I mean, 10 years later, I get to the part of the play that I'm acting in it, and I get to my friend's name, and it does get stuck right here. And I'm like, still? Uh,
Mhm.
but I think I'm lucky that I had a friend so close that means so much that still that much later, it still affects me. And I have gotten the emails where people have said, I brought my son to your play and you saved his life. And so that's why I keep doing the play. And I wish I could do it every weekend somewhere. And I'm so excited that Jenny and Marcus Whitaker are producing this little tour of it. And I've never done it this many days in a row. And I'm really looking forward to presenting. So it's about an hour play. And then the last half hour, we have a mental health professional from that area, and we do a talk back with the audience. And to me, that is the most important part of the play, is that talk back.
I
And I
agree.
always hear things that I just blow me away. And I think because in the play, I'm so open and honest about my struggles, and when I was in the eighth grade and I didn't want to live
Hmm.
and go to school the next day because I was bullied and spit on, and uh, that it opens up other people to share. And even
Right.
in communities that are not known for sharing,
Hmm.
and it's a beautiful moment when it almost becomes like the group therapy in this theater. And I've seen one show I was doing, I went out to the lobby and these two women came out of the bathroom in tears, hugging each other. I was like, that's so great. Like, you could come with your friend and share this experience. He goes, oh no, I just met her in the bathroom. Like, they just connected and had this very emotional, tough experience. And so the more I do things like that, I keep wanting to spend my time marrying art and advocacy together, and using what I do and my craft to keep discussions going, whether it's about dementia or about suicide. Or I did a production of The Diary of Anne Frank, starring a Latinx cast, and it um, talked about what was happening at the border in artistic way. Obviously, we were doing play Anne Frank, but by casting those actors, it was having those actors put their feet in the shoes of people, that had to deal with what Anne Frank and her family and had to deal with, and that provoked a lot of discussion. So that's been the cool thing about doing what I do, and even if it's just making people laugh, that's
Hmm.
important.
That's true.
Um, like with this show, I was scared of doing improvisation. Like I've never done karaoke. I'm not doing it. I'm too scared. Why? Because I think people would laugh at me, or I can't
Hmm.
sing, or I would look stupid. And by being involved in the show, it's like, no, like who's to judge? Like, can you imagine just living life, like not thinking about people laughing at you? Like how freeing that would be. And so that's why, the motto in improvisation is yes and. So that's kind of my motto in life is when someone says, like, will you do this show? Yes, and tell me, right? I was just like, okay, let's figure it out. What day? And having these experiences and meeting new people. And
Right.
that's what's so exciting and why I jump out of bed every day.
Well, thank you. Like I said, thank you for coming on my show. And
Well, thank you for inviting me. And I
thank you
love,
for following me on Instagram.
well, and we're not going to sing thank you for being a friend, but you can hear it in the background. You can see the plane and, and then you can go have yourself a good cry. Yeah.
Right. Well, of course, we're
Yeah.
not gonna sing the song, the go.
No, we don't want to.
No, I'm
No
not a
one
good
could
singer.
sing. I'm not either. So, and then you've heard that
I
gospel
tried one
version,
time
right?
because um my mom my mom was a big Golden Girls fan, and one time the song came out and I sang. I tried, and she was like,
No,
no, I
no, don't do
go
that,
back and
please.
listen. Let me just listen to the original song. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, sorry. I guess my
Sing it in your head or in the shower.
I guess my voice is not good. And I
It
tried
doesn't matter. Just sing.
one
If you,
time I tried with one of my friends, and I was like, I'm just gonna sing the Golden Girls. Let's be friends. And she was like, your voice is not great, but I'm glad you're singing. But just sing that in your head or in the shower.
oh, wow.
And I'm like, but we both sang out loud and we're like, no, both of our voices don't not great. So it's okay. Let's just sing it anyways. And I'm like, can't get the high pitch, but we got it.
Now you've heard the gospel version, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I got to meet him at the Golden Girls convention in Chicago, and he sang it with the original singer of it. Oh my God. I mean, you'll see it on my TikTok. It was life changing. Like that was just the coolest thing to see it live.
Right. Amazing. That's awesome. I've heard it. It's awesome. Thank you. But it's amazing because thanks to you and the rest of the Golden Girls staff, it's just how life changing it was for me and other people, especially the dementia scene that got me. And then of course, it's just I don't know, it's mind blowing. And it was just there was other scenes in the Golden Girls that got me. I can name so many more, but it brought back some memory for me. It's like, wow, this is what's happened. I didn't know that. But like I said, the one that really got me was still again, I can keep talking about it. Even still today, even tomorrow, the next day, it's still that dementia scene. That dementia, she's sitting there on the bench, everything was fine, and then suddenly, and that brings back my memory as me as volunteering at a nursing home, and how it affected me. And of course, your mother and Paul, I didn't know about your mother, and my condolences goes to you, but for me, it was like wow. And then when I went to nursing home after seeing that scene, I volunteering, I met someone that we were fine, and then suddenly dementia hit in, and then I was like, and the family was telling me it kind of gave me tears because back in my head that play that Golden Girls show came in front of my eyes. I was like, wow, I just experienced what just happened on the show in real life here. We were sitting on the bench outside, and then suddenly he just didn't remember my name. He knew my face, and it was just
Well, that's the interesting thing when we do these shows is we come into work and we say, I've had this experience, and you bring that to your work. And that's, I think, what makes, a lot of these projects that I've been involved with, it's so rich that they come from real feelings that we've seen,
Mhm.
and you can't beat that. So that's why, keep your eyes open if you're an artist, and just, if you're writing music or painting or whatever it is, let these real moments inspire you.
That's true. 100%. 100%. Well, thank you, Stan, for
Thank you. Thank you for
coming on
inviting
my
me.
show. And I can't wait to have you back. Please come back on my show again.
I would love to.
And
And
it means a
best
lot.
of luck with everything. And
Well, same to you. And
well,
again, we'll keep in contact with
okay.
Instagram Messenger. And I will, ask you again in the future to come back on my show. And, if you ever come to Oklahoma City, I will watch your play.
Well, I'm
Go
hoping
there.
we are going to go on tour with Hip Rob. So you come on stage and we'll hypnotize you, and you can do some improvisation with the great Colin Mockery from Whose Line Is It Anyway?
I would love to. I don't know if I'll be great, but I'll do
You
it.
never know. You never know. Get up there. Remember, yes, and, right?
Yes, that's true.
And cool.
Yeah,
All right.
bye. Thank you so much. Stan.
Okay. Take care.
You
Bye.
too. Bye bye.